We're at the prologue time trial here at the Tour de France. We're looking here for the start of Floyd Landis. I think we're looking for the start of Floyd Landis because this is rather a surprise that Floyd Landis seems to have gone somewhere else. The team car of Floyd Landis is there. Landis, I think, has missed his start. He has to go through the starting gate. He's come up at the last possible moment. I've seen this happen before. This will be a massive panic now for Floyd Landis because he will see himself losing a certain number of seconds. I think he lost himself between 5 and 10 seconds there, but that is a real professional mistake. He should not have made it. Neither should his team. Well, Phil, I've seen it before. Pedro Delgado has done it. So many riders have done it. And, you know, in this modern day of technology, everybody's got a pretty decent watch. You've just got to go to the starting house and set your watch to exactly the same starting time as the starters have. And you shouldn't miss the start like that at all.
Well, I'll tell you what, as we're looking here at Tombone, and Thor Hushovd has just gone through the halfway with the best time by 2 seconds quicker than Postuma. Now, that is a bit of a surprise to say the least, but not as big as the surprise concerning Floyd Landis.
Well, I'll tell you what, the time of Thor Hushovd is going to make a lot of people very happy, and this is the arrival of David Miller. It's not going to set the world on fire here this afternoon because it's around about 20 seconds from this last bend to the finish line, but he started his comeback, he started his attempt to convince the world that he's back and he's clean and he's good.
Well, the thing is, 2 years out, cycling moves on. It's all well and good training and training hard, but competition is being missed here by David Miller. He'll get better, and he might be good for London in a year's time when the Tour starts. He's produced something 9 seconds slower. He's still 7th overall on his comeback day.
Phil, that's not bad. With 2 years of no competition in your legs to come back and do a performance like that, he's now got to settle down and think about how to get through the big, long stages that are going to face him over the next 3 weeks.
Denny Menchov here, who won the Tour of Spain last year on the disqualification of Roberto Heras, now making his start. The big Russian could be a big challenger in this year's Tour now. He's en route.
Well, he's en route, he's on course. He too could be a very massive favourite as we go a little bit further up the road. I just had a quick calculation, looked at my watch there as we look at the back here of Damiano Cunego. I think Floyd Landis lost himself around about 8 seconds with that late start.
Yep.
That could be vital at the end of the day.
Well, I heard that the actual bleep go on the clock and he wasn't even in the start house, so I'd say you're probably about right there.
Alejandro Valverde has just gone through with the same time as Thor Hushovd. This is the man who has this year won the Flèche Wallonne and, of course, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He's regarded as the new best star for Spain. He's wearing the white jersey as leadership of the Pro Tour. This man is absolute class, Phil. Another rider from Spain who has not at all been implicated in what we know as the Operación Puerto.
Well, Alejandro Valverde, now back to Levi Leipheimer anyway. I will talk more about Valverde in a second. Leipheimer goes now. The Gerolsteiner, he has become a hot favourite in the last 48 hours to win the Tour de France, the American. He's just won the Dauphiné Libre race in fine style as a preparation race for this. Leipheimer now is also a great prologue rider.
You know, a couple of years ago, people said this was not a strong team, Team Gerolsteiner. But this year, Phil, they've had a brilliant season. They've won on all fronts. They started the year off well in the Tour of California. Levi Leipheimer won the prologue there over just 3 kilometres. But he's come to the Tour de France, I think, in the best condition that he's ever had.
Well, Wiggins has just crossed the line. Our cameras aren't under our control, of course, but he's crossed the line and taken the 7th place finish at the moment. He'll be disappointed with that, but in all honesty, his form has indicated a ride of that nature throughout this season. So he sits in 7th place at the moment. Now here's the man who might reshape this leaderboard if his start hasn't been too quick. He's still a way to go and he's got 20 seconds to get in, but Hushovd is riding and I think he may have slipped away here.
It's going to be very close, Phil, because it's around about 20 seconds from that final corner there. You can see the team manager in the car behind is going to be ballistic. It could be either way by a couple of seconds. It's going to be Thor Hushovd.
It's best time for Thor Hushovd. He's held it by 4.8 seconds, a new leader. We've waited an awful long time to push Serge Lang off the top of the leaderboard, and it's the man who won this race on points a year ago. 8 minutes 17 puts him 4 seconds better than Lang and O'Grady on the leaderboard, and there are still 11 riders to finish.
We go back down to the starting gate. World time trial champion now. 3 riders from the end. Michael Rogers, he's been the world time trial champion for 3 years. Now he's lining up for the Tour de France as possible co-leader of T-Mobile. For him, this is a big rendezvous.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, Paul, as we look at the start of the world champion here, Floyd Landis has gone through the first check at 3.1 kilometres, 8 seconds slower than best time. We've estimated he lost 8 seconds.
Well, that makes him right up there with the leaders. It's all about how you finish this race off. Tom Boonen's coming up here. He's not going to rival the time of Thor Hushovd, but it's going to be a good time for this sprinter. Boonen has a very strange style indeed, but I tell you what, when this man wants to go fast, get out the radar gun.
Well, he's put himself in the frame for a yellow jersey in the next few days. A 7th place time for the world champion on the road, Tom Boonen. As it's all action out on the course now as these riders battle. Christophe Moreau, the leader of the French AG2R team.
Well, all of the big names are now starting to line up here. There's not very many riders left to come. We're looking now at the second rider from the end in the starting gate, Dave Zabriskie. Out on the open road is Christophe Moreau. Zabriskie last year was a bit of a surprise winner. This year he's got a big name tag on his back and he's a favourite.
Well, a big start here now by Dave Zabriskie, Paul, as he rolls off that start ramp. We switch back to the man who could again reshape the finish here, the arrival of Valverde. He was tied with Hushovd. Is he going to pip him? And I think the answer is no. If Valverde has slipped away and is dropping out to possibly third as he crosses the line. Well, Thor Hushovd could be shaking the foundations of everybody.
He could be creating a little bit of a surprise here this afternoon. The man known as a sprinter, as big and powerful. The man we're looking at here, though, Dave Zabriskie, is one of the most aerodynamic riders in the professional peloton naturally. He just seems to have the ability to get himself tucked right in there. See how close his arms are in the middle of the handlebars? Nicely arched back, the helmet built into his body. He's going through this road like a man possessed.
And back to the start house. The last man to go in today's stage of the Tour de France is George Hincapie. Rider 176. This man knows he's capable of great things. Last year, remember his brilliant win in the Pyrenees. Well, now, can he come home with a prologue time?
Big pressure to start last man in the Tour de France. He's replacing the man who retired at the end of last year's Tour, Lance Armstrong.
And this is Damiano Cunego heading up towards the finish. We must put it into perspective here. Floyd Landis is not damaging his overall hopes in the Tour de France, but I think he might well have cost himself a victory in the prologue and a likely first yellow jersey. We'll know in a couple of minutes. This is Cunego coming up to the line now at 8:57, 118th.
That is a long way down for Cunego. He obviously too is thinking a little bit further down the road. Now this is Floyd Landis. The time to beat on the finish line is the time of Thor Hushovd. You know, Landis is going to rue the moment, Phil, that he missed that start, because he is fairly close to the top end of the overall classification, and he started with an 8-second handicap.
Landis comes up to the line in the 5th best time, 9 seconds slower than Hushovd, and we think about 8 seconds late out of the start house. He would have been right in the podium board, but that's not to be, and he's pulled out something very special. The adrenaline, Paul, must have been pumping out of him.
It must have been absolutely pushing around his body. Thor Hushovd is now right at the top end of the overall standings. Langer is now being pushed down into second, 4 seconds in the rear, but this is Dave Zabriskie. Look at the way he goes round those corners rather tentatively, probably thinking about the team time trial last year.
Exactly.
When he crashed out of the yellow jersey.
Exactly. In the house finished 8:17 is Thor Hushovd, 4 seconds quicker than Lang, Valverde and O'Grady. This man is out to upset all of that now. He won a little bit long. It was 19 kilometres the prologue last year in the west of France that opened the race. It's only 7 today. First chance to see Cadel Evans here now, a man who's thinking long term. The Australian rider from Victoria, who has had such a wonderful season. His first Tour de France last year, he finished 8th. He's staying right up amongst the front runners now as he races to the line. 10th best time for Cadel. That's a good start for him.
Look at the speed that Michael Rogers took that corner. This is a man who's a specialist. You've got to be pretty good to handle these bikes, by the way, because these bicycles are hybrids. They're not meant to be manoeuvred round corners fast. They're supposed to go in a straight line. Once you come to the level of the sport that Michael Rogers has come, you've learned how to make yourself at one with this bike. But I tell you one thing, ever get a chance to ride one, they're pretty weird.
Well, Michael Rogers has been known to fall off in time trials. I wouldn't wish that on him right now as he races up towards the line. He's going to be very, very close because he too is free to fly now in the absence of Jan Ullrich.
4 seconds off at half distance for Michael Rogers. 9th time, but it's all about the last 4 kilometers as far as I'm concerned. Dosing your effort to perfection. Zabriskie has gone through with almost the best time. Zabriskie is a second off at 3.6 kilometers.
Yes, he's gone through with the third best time, a whole second off the pace. That is nothing. He can lift that. As we watch Menchov coming up towards the line now, he's not a time trial specialist, a good climber. Comes up 50th finish so far for him. We have now just 5 riders left to finish, and Thor Hushovd is still top of the leaderboard. But Zabriskie looks likely to be the challenger as the camera switch now to Levi Leipheimer, who is the 5th rider on the road and the next man due in at the line.
Leipheimer using a massive gear here. Look at the crowds. I think the crowds have taken most of the oxygen away from these riders this afternoon. He's looking now at the time of Thor Hushovd. 8 minutes and 17 is the time to beat, but it's a long way from this corner. It takes around about 15 seconds, so he's not going to do that. So for Leipheimer, he's opening up his account here this afternoon. Let's not forget, as you said, not losing the Tour de France here this afternoon, but certainly not winning the prologue.
So Leipheimer comes home, stays up amongst all of the men that matter in the Tour de France over the next 3 weeks. He's just letting himself be known. He is in this race for sure. As he just gets inside the top 30. No, he doesn't. 31st place for him.
Phil, George Hincapie has just gone through 3.6 kilometers with exactly the same time as Zabriskie, exactly the same time as Thor Hushovd, and almost the same time as Alejandro Valverde. It's all going to be very, very close on the finish line.
Here comes Christophe Moreau. Once won this prologue time trial when we were over in Dunkirk when the Tour de France started there. It's not going to be today though, because his time will run out, but it's another good ride by Christophe Moreau. He's changed teams this year. He seems to have found his old form and he's riding much, much better. I think we'll see a lot of this man during the Tour de France, but it won't be on the podium today.
It won't be on the podium here this afternoon, but it's a good indication, the prologue time trial, of how the big contenders are doing. Stops the line there in 12th place. Not very many men left now can stop the man at the top, Thor Hushovd. Thor Hushovd now has probably only got to wait, Phil, for around about 3 minutes to see whether or not he's going to be the yellow jersey here at the Tour de France this afternoon, and that will be quite a surprise.
Well, here comes Michael Rogers, the world champion. Now he's out, not on the leaderboard in the first 5 riders at halfway. It's going to be a very good finish. I don't think he'll reach Hushovd, but he's not going to be far away. He's got 15 seconds. It's a long ride up from this bend, but Michael Rogers has come to the Tour de France in tremendous form. This is the best we've seen him for years. He's racing up to the line. He can see the clock like we can. Is he going to make it? He's just going to be outside as he comes to the line. But Michael Rogers has given us a world time trial performance today as he slots in 4th position for the world champion.
Great ride by Michael Rogers, just 6 seconds adrift. This is the last man on the road, the man who won a stage in the Tour de France last year, right at the summit of one of the biggest mountain passes. George Hincapie now riding on his own, closing down the opening day prologue of the Tour de France, representing Lance Armstrong, the man who won the race last year for a 7th time in succession, and he's not too far off the leaderboard at the top at 3.6 kilometers. He was only 1 second adrift. This is the arrival of Dave Zabriskie. It's all, Phil, going to be so very close, but I don't think Zabriskie's got enough time to get to the finish.
Well, he's gritting his teeth and he's concentrating. He's just looking at that finishing line now. He knows this could be a blink of the eyelid, could decide this race. Thor Hushovd, the former champion of Norway as a time trialist, once an under-23 world champion. Is he going to hang on and beat Zabriskie? It looks like it's got to be a lunge for the line. It's gone. It has gone by as Zabriskie races home. He drops in 2nd place. There's the margin. He lost time, in fact, over the last half of the race, and Hincapie has got him in his sights. Now, this might be more dangerous. Hincapie may have stayed better.
Well, Hincapie's still got a fair way to go to the finish. He knows the time to beat now. He will have heard that over the race radio in his helmet. He's got to beat 8 minutes and 17 seconds. This could be the one, Phil, because he's coming into the little S-bends now, right down towards the finish. He's got this right-hander, then he's got the left-hander. It's around about 20 seconds from the left-hander. Look at the face, the concentration now on George Hincapie. He goes around. This is going to be an awful lot closer.
I think that Hincapie could be the man to spoil the Norwegian party here. This has been, he stayed the distance much better than Zabriskie. Hincapie has just got to that small amount of 10 seconds to the line, but I think it's close, but it's there. He can see the line. Hincapie's pulled this one out of the back. He's going to have to push over the line. He's got a second to do it. It's gone on the call. Less than 1 second. George Hincapie won't believe he's grabbed his helmet. He's looked at the clock. He's lost that time trial by 73 hundredths of a second. The victor is Thor Hushovd.
And there's the official result. Hushovd on the same rounded up time as second place George Hincapie, with last year's opening day winner David Zabriskie third, and Alejandro Valverde, not known as a time trialist, fifth.